Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how government policy changes are affecting medical school. We're going to talk about what is happening with the Department of Education. We're going to talk about what's happening with PSLF. And we're going to talk about what is happening with IDR plans. My goal with these is so that you don't have to research them yourself. I will just lay out the facts, lay out what's happening with each of these, what you should be doing, and just give you something to listen to stay informed on these, because medical school is hard enough and you have other things to research. So, first of all, the Department of Education is currently under an executive order to begin being dismantled. One of the Trump administration's policy proposals when he was running was that he was going to dismantle the Department of Education. The primary goal for that was to move education and the handling of it back to the states individually, but there's a lot of latent effects of that weren't necessarily intended that are really sucking for a lot of people. So the Department of Education has historically been the person that you submit FAFSA to. They have serviced all the loans that are given out by the government, all the subsidized loans, all of the Grad Plus loans, all of those sorts of things. And if the Department of Education isn't around, then what's going to happen with all those loans? And the answer to that is they're being moved to be managed by the SBA, or the Small Business Administration. Now, the SBA, as the name suggests, is basically an organization that has been handling government loans to small businesses and managing grants, managing repayments, all that kind of thing. They are not necessarily capable of handling 40 million student loan borrowers, which is the current number of people who possess loans through the government. And so what that will likely mean for us is that things might get confusing with the repayment of loans. Your loan servicer might change. The interest rates might go up or down. And largely, they're probably not going to be the greatest at communicating in the near future. So what we can do is just to stay on top of who your loan servicer is. And most importantly, don't just trust that auto pay is going to work every month. Definitely check to make sure that things are getting paid, because as they're moving data over from the Department of Education to the SBA, it is possible that your auto pay could be reset without you knowing and without them notifying you. And so you don't want to get 6 months from now and realize that you have 6 months of payments due, and then you'll have to just throw a big lump sum out there. So stay on top of who your servicer is and make sure your auto pay is working, or just pay it yourself every month manually just to make sure you know that it's going through. Just some peace of mind advice there. Moving on to PSLF program, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So up until now, what PSLF has essentially done is that when you graduate, when you sign your first job contract, if you sign to work under an organization that qualifies for the PSLF, basically it included underserved hospital systems. There's other organizations that qualified under different rules, but basically you would make 10 years worth of qualifying payments on your loans every month. And at the end of those 10 years, because you worked for a PSLF authorized program, the remaining balance of your student loans would just be forgiven, no matter how close or far you were to paying off the remaining balance, which was great because for a lot of people that canceled out the effects of interest, because they ended up not having to pay the full interest that would have accrued where they'd have to keep paying for 5, 10, 15 more years. So PSLF is currently still going. If you currently are under a PSLF program repayment, then you will likely be able to continue relying on that. The only thing that has changed is that the current administration has given out new guidelines for who qualifies for PSLF, and they reserve the right to revoke that authorization from any organization that has controversial standings on political issues like abortions, like transgender care, And basically any organization that doesn't necessarily agree with the current administration's policies on those are up for potential loss of their qualification for the PSLF. So just make sure that your organization, if they used to be qualifying for the PSLF, make sure they still qualify. And if you're about to sign any job contracts to begin working, make sure that the place you're working has a PSLF authorization if you're going to rely on that. My recommendation moving forward is just don't be dumb and take out more loans than you need and just assume that you'll be able to use PSLF to repay those in the future, because currently the hope is that those will come back on very little conditions, but it is very likely also that those will continue to be taken to the chopping block, and those might not even be available within 4 years. So don't go to medical school assuming that you'll be able to just get your loans forgiven, because there is a strong chance that that might not be the case in the near future. IDR plans, or income-driven repayment plans, have been a godsend for a lot of people, especially residents, because basically what IDR plans have done up until now is that you take your annual income, give it to the Department of Education, and they have been able to reduce your monthly payments that you owe on your student loans to not exceed a certain percentage of your income. And that's been wonderful, because you get all these residents who owe $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 in loans and make $60,000 a year in residency. So just based off of pure dicing up those loans into monthly payments, you get like $2,000 a month that you owe on these loans. And so it's been really, really nice for residents to be able to say, hey, I only make 60 grand, I only make 70 grand. I cannot afford to pay $2,000 a month, because that's like more than a third of my income every year. And so those plans are currently still running if you have secured an IDR plan, but currently if you visit the studentaid.gov website, the application is locked for that. They have a message on there that basically says that things are moving fast on this. Currently the application has been suspended, but it's hopeful that it'll come back in the near future. So don't panic. Hopefully that will be something that will be restored in the future. But at the current moment, if you're on one of those plans, you're good. If you're not, then unfortunately you're going to have to pay that higher monthly amount, or you're going to have to find ways through your loan servicer to pause your loans, because there's not many ways to reduce those right now, especially for us who have taken out hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans through medical school. So what you should do is to stay on top of who your loan servicer is. Make sure to get on and screenshot your interest rate so that those don't get thrown around and then they back claim and assume that you didn't notice that they did it. Make sure your auto pay is going to work if you're going to allow that to continue, or just cancel your auto pay and pay it yourself every month so that you know and have the peace of mind that your payment was submitted. Another thing that I would recommend is to go into medical school for those of us who are starting soon, not with the mentality that you will just get your loans forgiven later by PSLF. That could very well not be a thing in the next 3 to 4 years. Even so, hopefully it comes back, but it's likely that they are going to continue to add conditions onto people qualifying for the PSLF, and you just don't want to rely on that when it could evaporate in the next 3 to 4 years. IDR plans, plan now. Don't wait until residency to think about and talk about with your family how you're going to manage that payment every month, because currently it is impossible to sign up for IDR plans. And so let's just cross our fingers that those get restored and that the administration sees the sense in allowing those to continue. But for now, that is what I would do. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more like this, subscribe. I'm going to continue to come out with videos like these just that you can listen to, kind of stay up to date on the current condition of these things. But if you have any specific things that you don't particularly want to research but would like to hear about, definitely comment them. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.